Hello everyone, it's L678 here. We're going to continue our look at Badniks in Sonic GDK. This is a continuation of the first part, so if you haven't watched that, I suggest you do. Anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to make a Badnik that is similar to the Buzz Bomber in Sonic 1 and 2. So basically it will fly, it will stop, it will shoot the player and then move on. Now, as you can probably see, I've already set up the meshes of my pawn and my spawner, but I haven't set anything else in the pawn. So I'm going to do this now. If you remember, I showed you how that we need the shoot slots to be on the wings. If we don't set this up, what will happen is the pawn will just shoot from the middle. So to set this up, we're going to the skeletal mesh, and this is the one that I'm using right now. And we need to create sockets in our mesh. And the socket manager is up here in the top left. Now, I've already set these up, so I'll actually delete them. Start again. So you go to new socket, and if your mesh has any bones in them, then you can select it here. This mesh doesn't have any, so I don't have a choice here. And the socket name, I want it to be shoot1. And right now, I'm going to move this to the right hand wing. And it's exactly the same as in the editor, you can just rotate it like that. When setting up shooting slots, the red arrow is where the projectile will come from. And I want this to actually shoot from both sides. So I'm going to make another socket with shoot2 as the name. And move it over, and exactly the same. Rotate it. And there we go. It's worth pointing out that you can change this via numbers. I'm just doing it rough for the sake of this video, but you can actually change the position and the rotation to a much more accurate degree here. Now that that's set up, I'm going to save it. And in the pawn, we go to shoot slots, and we're going to add one of them. I'm going to not select aim at enemy for now. Now the projectile archetype, what this is, it's basically the actor that is the projectile. So I've already got one set up because this Badnik is already in Sonic Incursion and it is being used. So I've already got an archetype here, but Sonic GDK does have a generic projectile. So basically just copy it. Just right click, create copy, and do whatever you need to do. In the settings, you've got all the things that you would ever need to change, like particles, the sounds, any decals, damage type, how long the projectile lasts. Also, you can set it up so that the projectile won't kill any other Badniks. This is something that can be quite useful in traditional gameplay, or you might want it to hurt Badniks based on what you want, and the speed, damage radius, and all this good stuff. So with the projectile selected, save that. Projectile selected, we change it, and on the socket, we want this one to be shoot1, and we make another slot, change the archetype again, and this one is shoot2. So exactly the same if you were going to do damage zones, you would put in a socket. So say for example if you want the hand or a particular, well basically like the hand of a model to be the damage area, you would put the socket on the hand which is attached to the bone, and that would make the hand the danger area. which you can then modify here. Same with the weak spots, although you don't actually have to put this onto a socket if you don't need to. So the pawn is now set up correctly. When we spawn this enemy though, it will just patrol the area which I set up in the previous video. It won't actually do anything because we haven't told it what conditions are required for it to attack. So what I want is this whole sequence is actually pretty long-winded, but it's a very precise one, and that's why I'm going to do it this way. So I've got this BSP brush here. So I'm going to make a dynamic trigger volume. And what I want to do with this is I want it to encompass all of this floor. That's over the entire platform. And I also want this to be disabled. Basically, now this Badnik will never spawn until I tell it to. So that's what I want set up in the editor right now. No, that's alright. So, new event using the dynamic trigger touch. And we need it to only play once. And in the new action, toggle, I'm going to place this in the Kismet sequence. When the trigger is touched, it will turn on the spawner. Now the reason I've done this is because if you have a very specific area where Badniks will spawn, then this is a very accurate way of doing it. The alternative is modifying these check player radius values, which again, it works, but this is a good practice just for this video to get you thinking about Kismet. So to prove that this works, what we're going to do is I'm going to make this event play a text message when it plays. So, spawn, there we go. As you can see, it hasn't appeared, and now it has. And it will begin its patrol that we gave it in the last video. So, how are we going to get this to spawn? How are we going to get this to shoot the player? Well, there's a few different ways. One way is to actually rely on the sight of the Badnik, which is fine, but we're going to go for something a bit more precise. So we're going to make another dynamic trigger volume. This time make sure that the physics are interpolating. This means that it can be moved by Matinee, Kismet, whatever. I'm going to make it quite big. It doesn't actually matter where this trigger is. Now, what this trigger actually represents is the area the player has to be in for this Badnik to open fire. So, now we've got the Badnik activated when we land on the ground. We've also got the enemy that's been spawned. So, when the Badnik is spawned, we need this volume to be attached to the Badnik. So to do this, new action, actor, attach. We're doing this because we can't actually attach the volume to the Badnik but basically you could attach it through the properties, but the Badnik hasn't spawned yet. We don't know what its designation or name is, so we can't do that. We have to do it through Kismet. So when it is spawned, the target is the Badnik itself, and the attachment is the trigger volume that serves as the target, if you will. And make sure that hard attach is selected and use relative offset is selected. Obviously you could set this to be a few units in front of the plate, in front of the badnik, or on top or behind, whatever. And just to prove that this will work, no, not yet. The next sequence is actually making the badnik open fire. So what we need is a new event using the trigger volume. Now before we do anything, I'm going to make sure that we can actually tell that this is working. I'm going to make it display the text message again. And the max trigger count will be 0, because we want this to actually occur as many times as the badnik is alive, but we don't want it to activate thousands of times while the player is in the volume. So we're going to put a re-trigger delay of 5 seconds. So what happens now? Well, to simulate that the badnik is stopping and aiming like the buzz bomber does in Sonic 1 and 2, it's new action, AI, and freeze. When this is touched, it will freeze the badnik that we've created. If you right click on any junction or anything like that, you can actually set an activate delay. We're just going to have a delay of 1, which will then, so basically it freezes the actor, the badnik. After 1 second it will unfreeze it so it can continue its patrol. We also need a check to make sure that the badnik is alive. What will happen if this isn't present? It will actually shoot anyway, even if the enemy is dead, and we don't want that. So next one, action, Sonic GDK, shoot enemy. True. I'm going to put a trigger delay of 0.5 and another shoot enemy node. And because I've put 2 shooting slots on here, I need to designate that this one is the opposite wing. So that's actually shoot slot 1 and this is shoot slot 0. So save the game, build the AI, and see if this works. So there's no badnik. Now there is. It shot 2 rockets. It works exactly how we intended it to. Now if we go back into the pawn and change these shoot slots to aim at enemy, they will actually aim at player instead, rather than straight forward. It's also worth pointing out that you could angle the socket downwards to basically mimic the buzz bomber. You can see it's actually the enemy can't actually see the player, it will still fire straight forward. This is not down to an error in this logic, although you could force it by having a check site code. There it is. Basically what this would do is it will make the badnik recheck the site, although to be honest I've found that the site system in GDK is a little bit strange. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you can be stood right in front of a badnik and it won't recognise realise what you're doing. You can force that by giving it a massive vision, a massive hearing as well, which would get around that problem. Now, as I said before, this whole sequence is pretty long-winded for one Badnik. You could get rid of this and basically rely on the Badnik threshold when you come near it in spawn. You also could get rid of the trigger volume, because then you could make it you could use the event enemy see player. You could do it this way. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just this method actually allows for more play, because you could have all kinds of different things happen when it's shooting. So you could even put, I don't know, camera shake in there. So this is just to prove that we could have. This basically means it will shake at the player. Because the Badniks don't have control of the camera shake won't work, but the point is you could have anything going on here. The other thing I wanted to show is how to manipulate a Badnik through matinee. So I'm going to keep all of this. I'm going to stop it shooting the player. Now, to get a Badnik to actually move in matinee, or even be manipulated in matinee, we need to actually set this to interpolating and the enemy pawn interpolating as the class. The problem I've found with this, however, is that it now no longer has any, it can't actually follow patrol paths. But I'm going to get rid of this. Basically, when it spawns, a matinee sequence will play. So for this matinee, what I wanted to do is nothing serious. By the way, if you don't know how to use matinee, I would suggest there's far more comprehensive tutorials on YouTube, and I'm not going to go into this in too much detail because it is worth a whole another video by itself. All we're going to do is set it to move. So the first key is where it is. After 4 seconds it will move forward. Maybe just to prove again, another key of it moving up. So it should, when it spawns, do this. Right. But I've selected the enemy spawner. Now this is because, how do I manipulate, how can I create a matinee sequence if I don't have the actor to play with? I can't, because the Badnik hasn't spawned yet, there's nothing there. So if we actually set that as a spawner, this will actually be replaced when the Badnik spawns anyway. So I can actually use this as a preview in matinee. One other thing I just forgot about, if you need to set this to freeze AI. And then play it. So give this a go, and it should play. And there we go. And then, as anyone knows that if you've used Matinee, you can start to loop it. You can do all kinds of great stuff with this. And I could have also, in fact, I could also combine it with all this shooting. So to create this again, another point actually, if I get rid of this, sometimes you might have a delay that needs to either stop or you want to be able to pause it. So basically, if you don't want to use that method of making a delay, go to New Action, Miscellaneous, and Delay. Because now, for example, I could put in some other external event that would stop it or pause it or anything like that. For example, I need the game to check that the Badnik is still alive. If he is, we'll shoot. And I've got another is alive check here. And after this delay, it will check again. If this delay wasn't there, if this condition wasn't there, after the delay had finished, it would shoot, even if the Badnik wasn't alive. So, everything is set up correctly there. Let's give it another go. So what if we wanted to go back again? We can manipulate Kismet, Matinee. So what this will do is it will actually reverse the Matinee sequence when it's played, although you could also manipulate it this way. Or, no, that's fine. And we can see it's coming back. There we have it. There's a lot more stuff you can do with Matinee and Kismet, and I don't profess to be any kind of expert with it, but there are some Badniks in Incursion, especially the metallics which do appear. They have a lot of math involved, and basically when they spawn they will do a random check, and if it rolls a number 1, for example, the Badnik will fly in a predetermined path above the player and shoot. If it rolls a 2, it will charge back and forth, and a damage zone is toggled on. 3 is a slight combination of the 2. So the point is, you can do a hell of a lot with this if you know how. And I hope that this video will encourage others to give Kismet a go when making Badniks, because a lot of people seem to have this conception that you have to use Unreal script to make Badniks, and maybe you do for the extremely advanced ones, but this is the method I've been using for Incursion, and all the bosses use this kind of system. So I hope you've learned something from this video, and I'll see you again next time.